Natural rights are something that you are born with, just like you're born with your eyes and your ears, right? And your heart. Well, natural rights, these rights are rights that you are born with. Nobody gave them to you. The government didn't create them by statutory law and say you have these rights. Because you're born a man or a woman, it's recognized that you have natural rights. And one of those rights is the right to consume. If you don't consume, what happens to you? What would happen to you if you don't consume? You would die, right? If you don't consume water, and you don't consume food, and you don't consume the resources that are on this earth to build shelters and protection from the elements, what would happen to you? If you want to consume, right? They took away that right. They limited and abridged that right. You're not allowed to consume anymore. What's out there in nature? No way. It belongs to the crown. It belongs to the majesty. Look what it says in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, and all the provinces. We find the same operation of law. For the purpose of this act, the beds of all the bodies of water or portions of the bodies of water, including streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, or reservoirs, are, in the absence of evidence to the contrary, presumed to be owned by the crown. Oh, so the crown is claiming, right, that they own all the rivers and all the lakes and all the ponds and all the reservoirs. And they're saying that we own this unless there's evidence to the contrary. Okay, well, how do you have the right to claim you own this? Where do you get the audacity to claim that you own this? Where do you think that one executive power, Her Majesty the Queen, has the right, or King Chuckles has the right to claim that he owns all the water? The divine right of kings, the divine right, or God's mandation, is a political and religious doctrine of political legitimacy of a monarchy. It stems from a specific metaphysical framework in which a monarch is before birth preordained to inherit the crown. That's the same crown they're talking about where they say it's presumed they own all the fish. This same crown right here. And this crown, right, this monarch is apparently chosen by God and in the image of God. According to this theory of political legitimacy, the subjects of the crown have actively and not merely passively turned over the metaphysical selection of the king's soul, which will inhabit the body and rule them, to God. Are you hearing this garbage? They try to deceive us. They attempt to deceive us by saying, oh, well, the monarchy, right, it's just ceremonial. It doesn't really have any power. But then you go looking in the laws, right, and you see that King Chuckles, he's the executive power of this corporate body called Canada. And within this corporate body, within their statutory law, right, they claim to own all the land and all the water and all the animals. They claim that before the judiciary. They claim that before the court system. And we're expected to sit here and just accept that. And when we look back and we say, well, where's this claim coming from? How's this claim built? Where did the start of this claim come from? And we see this joke here that says before they were born, they were chosen from God to be the rulers, preordained to inherit the crown, and preordained to rule over the earth and the people. Garbage. Garbage. That's what it is. And look what it's saying. It's saying that the subjects of this crown, the subjects of the monarchy, have actively, not merely passively in this belief, turned over the metaphysical selection, turned over their spirit, turned over their soul, and if you don't believe in that, then turned over their will to King Chuckles, to the monarchy. And why do you think they make you take an oath of allegiance? That allegiance, that oath, right? You surrender your will. You give up your rights. You surrender your will to this garbage, to this system that claim that they're here because they're preordained from God to rule over you. And they even say it's not passive, it's active. Well, when we look to the law, right, it's for sure active because they make us take an oath, or they put us under an oath of allegiance. And they say we promise to serve the king and to obey the laws that he puts into operation. That's how statutory law is working. That's how their laws are working. Looking into the Financial Administration Act here in Canada, Article 19.1, the Governor and Council may, on the recommendation of the Treasury Board, by regulation, prescribe the fees or charges to be paid for a right or privilege conferred by or on behalf of His Majesty in right of Canada, by means of a license, permit, or other authorization by the persons or classes of persons on whom the right or privilege is conferred. All right, so you want to consume, right? You want to operate your natural right to consume. Not allowed to do it. You've been limited and abridged. Your natural right has been restricted here in Canada. What they do is they put you under allegiance to the king, right? And they put you under his authority. And they say, okay, you want to go fish? You want to go get a fish? You want to consume? You want to go catch an animal? You want to consume that animal? Well, you got to ask His Majesty for permission. You got to ask His Majesty to confer the right or the privilege upon you. And that right would be conferred upon you in the form of a license or a permit. Are we living in the Middle Ages? Are we living in the 16 or 1500s? That we should have to ask a king for permission to consume. Oh no, this is all just ceremonial. It's just ceremonial. Those lawyers will cry out. Those lawyers will say, oh no, it's not. This whole system is built upon a ridiculous presumption, a ridiculous foundation of divine right of kings, transferred into statutory law and still in operation in 2023, where they're saying that you have to bow down your knee in allegiance and you have to beg this executive power, this king, so-called king, King Chuckles, for permission if you want to go fish, for permission if you want to ride an ATV, for permission if you want to hunt an animal. Why? Well, he owns everything. He owns all the land. He owns all the forestry. He owns all the animals. He owns all the fish. And the crown is representing him. And therefore the crown claims they own everything. Well, where do you get that claim from? Well, God told the king. God told the king many, many years ago. God spoke to the king many years ago before he came to earth and said, you're going to rule. So that's why now, in 2023, we have to get a fishing permit. We have to get a hunting permit. We have to get a firearms permit. We have to get a permit to increase the space on our house, to do renovations. We have to get a permit to do all sorts of things. We have to ask the king in law to grant us the privilege and grant us the right and grant us the permission. So please, you dumbass lawyers, and excuse my language, but it's true. You dumbass lawyers, this is not ceremonial. And listen to the definition and listen to what it says. It says the divine right of kings, right? This operation of law, it will inhabit the body and rule them to God. Inhabit whose body? And rule who? What are they talking about? Well, it's going to inhabit the subjects of the crown's body. And it's going to rule them. And rule them how? Well, to God. So what are they claiming? They're claiming that, well, you follow these laws, right? And you obey these laws, then you're following God. You follow these laws, these statutory laws, right? Well, you're following God. That's how it's been set up. And we don't believe that. Of course we don't believe that. But the operation is still there, right? Well, what's that? Well, it inhabits your body, right? And it rules you, right? Well, why you pay taxes? Why you pay taxes? Well, it's inhabiting your body. That's statutory law. And it's ruling over you. And it's forcing you to do that. Why do you pay property taxes? Well, because it's inhabiting your body, right? And it's ruling over you. The system I'm talking about. The system. It's doing just what it was created to do. In 2023, still in operation. And people are blind to that fact. Why do you have to go get a fishing license? Why do you need the king in law to confer a right or a privilege upon you? Well, because it's inhabiting your body. And it's ruling over you. And this bondage, this controlling mechanism, we need to put a stop to it. It needs to come down. And we have to have a system for the people, a system for individuals. And the king always ruled with a strong arm, right? And the king always made decrees. And their decrees come out in the statutory laws now. And so you have to do this, and you can't do this, and you must do this, and you must not do this. And if you don't listen to us, well, we're not going to send a knight your way. We're not going to send someone with a sword. We're going to send someone in a blue suit We're going to send someone in a police car. We're going to send a government agent your way. And guess what? We're going to use our magic words to try and force you to surrender, and force you and compel you to give in and do what the law says, and do what the statutory powers are requesting you to do or requiring you to do. Same operation, right? Before it was off with your head. You don't listen to the king, off with your head. Now it's you don't listen to the king, okay, here's a fine. Oh, you don't pay the fine? Okay, you're going to jail. Our natural and fundamental rights, they belong to us. We were born with them. And you have no right, King Chuckles, and you have no right, Monarchy, and you have no right, executive powers of Canada, to limit and abridge those natural rights and fundamental freedoms. And you know it. That's why you make provisions in the law. That's why you have measures in the law that we can exercise these rights. But nevertheless, you continue to strip us and remove our fundamental rights and freedoms. You want to consume, you want to have a fish, right? Well, you can't just grab a rod and go down to the lake and get a fish out of there and eat that fish. Why? Because if one of their policy enforcers come by, what are they going to say to you? Excuse me, sir, where's your license? Do you have permission? Permission from who? What are you talking about? Well, actually, the law says permission from the king. Did the king grant you the right? Did the king grant you the privilege? Oh, no. It's just ceremonial. Just ceremonial. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. Financial Administration Act says it's not ceremonial. You need the privilege granted to you. And who's granting it to you? Who's granting it to you? So don't be deceived. You're living under tyranny. You're living under a controlling power. You're living under an operation of law that's been in existence for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They just dressed it up in a new way. They just put some new clothing upon it and said, here you go, take a look at this. Doesn't it look nice? The position that we've been put in, that their laws are trying to put us in, is that of slavery and that of servitude, right? That's what it is. That's what it is. Whether you want to kick against the prick and whether you want to fight against it, read the law and you see. Well, why do I need to ask the king for permission? Well, because I'm in servitude. Well, what do you mean I'm in servitude? Well, because you're being held under an oath of allegiance. Huh? None of this makes sense. Well, it's just ceremonial. Just ceremonial. Oh, no, it's not. Who comes after you, right? Who comes after you? The crown. And what's the crown? Huh? It's a representation of that divine right of kings. Still in operation. And you're still falling for it. You're still buying it. And you're still allowing that power to rule over your conscience. Life was not supposed to be like this. We are not supposed to be ruled and restricted and controlled the way we are. And you see the way they're doing it and the operation of law that they are using to create the system around us is garbage. It's garbage. You believe that claim? You believe God sent down King Chuckles? Then you need some help in your mind.